Sabala. Ready?
Good morning to the assistants joining today from Hong Kong. Good night to the people joining from Latin America. Buenas noches a las personas que nos acompañan desde América Latina. Welcome to our webinar today, Seizing Opportunities and Navigating Risk, organized by Invest Hong Kong and the Department of Justice. Before starting the event, I would like to join you and give you some technical advice. We have simultaneous interpretation available on the event. You can select the language at the bottom of your screen. We have Portuguese and Spanish available, so you can select at the very bottom and the link of interpretation. Also, after each one of the panel discussions, we will have a Q&A session. You can leave your questions in Spanish, Portuguese, and English, and our panelists will be glad to answer them at the end. To start the panel, I would like to start inviting our first panelist, an introduction to Mistress, Secretary of Justice of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of People's Republic of China, to welcome our audience today.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to tonight's webinar. In recent years, Sino-Latin American trade has reached unprecedented levels, facilitating closer cooperation and partnership in many areas, including commerce, investment, and infrastructure and construction. In 2018, the total value of Sino-Latin American trade reached US $307.4 billion, making China the region's second largest trading partner. And for some countries in the region, China is now their top trading partner. For China, Latin America has consistently been one of its top foreign investment destinations. I have no doubt that Sino-Latin American ties will be further strengthened as trade continues to thrive, especially under the full-fledged implementation of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area Development Plan and the Belt and Road Initiative. Hong Kong SAR is an international city and gateway to the mainland China. Hong Kong has been an important entrepôt for Sino-Latin American trade. For instance, in 2019, about 10% of the total trade between Mexico and mainland China was routed through Hong Kong. Hong Kong's fair and open market environment, with a well-established financial infrastructure for capital raising, has attracted many overseas companies to use Hong Kong as a regional base. Hong Kong's robust common law system, underpinned by a solid foundation for the rule of law, provides a business-friendly and predictable legal framework for the international business community. Furthermore, as enshrined in our basic law, Hong Kong courts exercise judicial power independently, free from interference, and the power of final adjudication rests with our Court of Final Appeal. We also have a pool of international and experienced professional talents, which offers a range of professional services, and in particular, world-class legal and dispute resolution services. These important attributes as a whole create a unique ecosystem which makes Hong Kong an ideal deal-making hub for Latin American enterprises looking to do business in the region. When engaging in cross-border transactions, disputes may arise, as national courts may not be the best forum for such matters by reasons of domestic rules of practice unknown to foreign parties, limitation on rights of audience before courts, and lack of a multilateral mechanism for enforcing court judgments. Arbitration is often the preferred alternative. Hong Kong is one of the world's leading international arbitration centers and has consistently been ranked as one of the top 5 preferred seats for arbitration globally since 2015. Hong Kong adopts the latest UNCITRAL model law as our arbitration laws, which ensures that our regime meets international standards. Parties are free to appoint arbitrators of their own choice, allowing total party autonomy with no restriction on nationality. Parties are also free to use lawyers from their own jurisdictions to represent them. Awards are generally upheld by local courts and enforced in other jurisdictions, including the mainland China, ensuring finality and enforceability of Hong Kong awards. Hong Kong laws have also made clear that intellectual property disputes may be resolved by arbitration and that third-party funding in arbitration is permissible. It is noteworthy that arbitrations in Hong Kong are independent from the court system, and the government does not interfere with the operation of arbitration institutions in administering their arbitrations. In addition, I must mention a game-changing arrangement between mainland China and Hong Kong in 2019 under the principle of one country, two systems. The arrangement allows parties to arbitral proceedings which are seated in Hong Kong and administered by designated arbitral institutions to seek assistance from the relevant court in the mainland to obtain interim measures such as injunctions or freezing of assets. Hong Kong is the first and only jurisdiction outside the mainland that can provide this service. Apart from arbitration, Latin American enterprises may resort to mediation in resolving cross-border disputes so as to preserve the long-term relationship between the disputing parties and explore creative and forward-looking settlement solutions. Investment mediation is an area that Hong Kong is actively developing. In particular, the investment agreement between the mainland and Hong Kong provides a comprehensive and flexible framework for mediation in the event of disputes between, say, a Hong Kong investor investing in the mainland. In other words, Latin American enterprises can use Hong Kong as a base for its special purpose vehicle for investing in the mainland and enjoy investment protection and the use of an amicable dispute settlement procedure to resolve differences. Furthermore, Hong Kong, as the regional hub in Asia, offers its flagship investment law and investor-state mediator training courses, together with leading institutions such as ICSID of the World Bank. Our aim is to work towards developing Hong Kong into an international investment law and investment dispute resolution skills training base, with a view to building up a team of investment mediators in Asia. Lastly, I should also mention our efforts in harnessing the latest technologies to enhance the dispute resolution process through developing and promoting online dispute resolution, ODR, as an affordable and efficient mechanism to resolve cross-border disputes online. We have opted into the APAC collaborative framework on ODR of cross-border business-to-business disputes and supported the development of an ODR and deal-making platform by eBrem Center in Hong Kong. Finally, may I thank Invest Hong Kong and our supporting organizations for organizing this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chang. Now we will proceed with the first panel. The objective of the first panel is to gain insight for companies growing in Hong Kong internationally. To start the first panel, I would like to introduce the moderator, Mr. David Tian. Mr. David is the founding partner of Tian & Co. His primary focus is on governance, risk management, and compliance, and he has extensive experience in corporate commercial matters in China and other Asian jurisdictions. David.
Thank you. Buenos días y buenas noches. Good morning and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this panel. And as Ruth mentioned, my name is David Tian. I'm a partner with a licensed law firm in Hong Kong and is affiliated with PwC. And I'm honored to be your moderator for this first panel. Together with me this morning, we have three distinguished guests. On my immediate left, Mr. Albert Wong. Albert is the CEO of Hong Kong Science Technology Park, and I'll ask Albert later to explain the purpose of the park. Albert holds an engineering degree from the University of Hong Kong and an MBA from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. He has 30+ years of commercial, industrial, and leadership roles with various multinationals, and he has this background with the critical appreciation and understanding of building companies, investment networks, and solving market needs. Of his 30+ years of experience, Albert has spent about 15 years with General Electric in the US headquarters, Asia Pacific, and China. And he has responsibility for M&A, business development, product management, and business operations. Thank you, Albert. Mr. Thomas Wong on their left as well. Thomas is the founding partner of InvestHK, an international mid-sized professional accounting advisory firm based in Hong Kong with offices in Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Shanghai. And he has established a Latin America and Spanish business advisory units back in 2006 and has now fully developed into a Latin American department serving the Spanish and Portuguese-speaking clients. Thomas also serves as an investment promotion ambassador of Invest Hong Kong. And apart from his active involvement in promoting Hong Kong to overseas companies, Thomas also leads this team to assist overseas enterprise to establish their presence in China, especially in the Greater Bay Area, which I will explain later. And then on this online, Mr. Wilson Chow, who is currently in Shenzhen. Wilson is a PwC partner and leads the global technology, media, entertainment, and telecommunication industry, TMT. He has extensive experience in providing assurance and advisory services to companies in the TMT industry, ranging from startups to global tech giants for capital market transactions, assurance, engagement, system controls, and advisories. Wilson's experience is well placed to support and providing companies with one-stop professional solutions and services in the TMT industry. Welcome everybody to the panel. Let's start with the discussion today. And as you know, Hong Kong has traditionally been known as a financial hub amongst many things, famous for the retail experience and tourism. So, to the panel, what is the view of your view about the role of Hong Kong as a business hub, especially post-COVID-19? And to Albert, as a seasoned business leader with global experience, do you think setting up business presence in Asia is important for business expansion? And is Hong Kong still attractive to business operators? And maybe in this process, you can explain the role of Hong Kong Science Technology Park.
Okay. Yeah, I think first of all, Hong Kong has always been a good place to do businesses for the region, not so much for Hong Kong itself, because Hong Kong itself is not a big market. But Hong Kong has always been the gateway to the big market in China. If you're interested in the 1.4 billion population in China, and you want to test it out instead of going into China right away, Hong Kong is a good place to start. And also Hong Kong is a gateway to the Southeast Asia market. For example, when I worked for GE, you were working with GE, we set up a global growth organization headquarters in Hong Kong. At that time, it was a big deal, and we had a vice chairman sitting in Hong Kong to take care of the whole business in the world, not just in Asia. But the biggest opportunity right now in front of all of us is because there's this Greater Bay Area that is being created, which includes 9 cities, but in China, 2 cities, which is Hong Kong and Macau. And you can be in China, but you're not really in China. I think that is a very subtle kind of things. You want to explore that 70 million population while living in a more Western-like environment in Hong Kong. And I just spend 1 minute talking about what Science Park is all about. Basically, we are a big incubator. We provide help to startups, to companies who come here to do technology research and development. We help them with communal facilities to enhance their advance their research and development and also business development. And we're also going to set up a separate office in the Greater Bay Area. So if you are coming to Hong Kong and you're interested in exploring the Greater Bay Area opportunity, which is 70 million population, and then expand to 1.4 billion, Hong Kong is a good place to start.
Yeah. Thank you. To Thomas, as you have assisted many Latin American companies setting up business presence in Hong Kong, maybe you can also touch upon some of the advantages and challenges about setting up in Hong Kong, and how could they overcome these challenges?
Yes, thank you, David. Buenos dias a todos in Latino America. I'm Thomas Wong, a CPA in Hong Kong, but dealing with Latin American market for over 15 years already. I think throughout my entire 15 years, I have helped a lot of companies from Colombia, from Mexico, from Chile, from Ecuador, from everywhere, setting up companies in Hong Kong with the ultimate objective of entering into the China market. The distinct advantage of Hong Kong, obviously, it's of course the rule of law and of course the low tax system, because the profit tax rate in Hong Kong is 16.5%. And this is always how I advise my Latino clients, to use Hong Kong as a hub first to enter into China, and now recently in the Greater Bay Area. In my last couple of years, last 2 years, I've helped a lot of Brazilian companies, Mexican companies, Colombian companies to set up, companies in Hong Kong first, and then enter into the Greater Bay Area, which is now having a population of 72 million, with the ultimate aim through the Greater Bay Area to enter into the whole big market of China. So I think here, I would like to appeal, to all my Latin friends whom I've known a lot, that if you want to go to China, please come to Hong Kong first through Invest Hong Kong. Invest Hong Kong will provide you with a lot of services, backup services, advice, etc., etc. And I spoke about the advantage. Now I will talk about the challenges. Of the challenges that I have encountered in my entire 15 years, helping Latino companies of entering into China through Hong Kong, basically rests with three main areas. Number one is the cultural difference between Latin America and Hong Kong and China. But one thing is common. Despite the cultural difference we have, one thing is common. It's the family bonding and the friendship that we Chinese and the Latin Americans have in common. The second challenge that I have always encountered, is the time difference. Every time when I want to deal with my clients in Mexico or Colombia, like this morning, at 6 a.m., I already have to do a Zoom meeting with Colombia and Mexico, because the time difference, in Mexico or in Colombia, it will be 11 hours or 12 hours, behind Hong Kong. So if you want to do business with Latin America, the time difference, is another challenge. But of course, the third challenge that I have, is Spanish and Portuguese, what we call the language difference, So mainly in Latin America, all the people, they speak Spanish and Portuguese. So that's why myself, I have a Latin department consisting of 3 Mexicans, 2 Brazilians, 1 Spanish and 2 Colombians working for me. So, if you want to do business with Latin America, definitely, you need to bear in mind of the 3 challenges I mentioned just now, including, the language difference. Thank you, David.
To Wilson, maybe you can share with us the emerging technologies and trends, especially post-COVID. As we know, China has sort of recovered, but what are the emerging technology trends you can share with us?
Okay, thank you, David. Good morning, evening, everyone. Well, certainly the pandemic has certainly served as a wake-up call to governments, corporations, and people that they make them more clearly understand the importance of advanced and emerging technology, which will help to resolve, issues and difficulty faced by people in an unprecedented time. In the post-pandemic world, all countries that I believe will speed up the pace of adoption of emerging tech. And China being the first country which came out from the pandemic, the government has been trying very hard to reboot the economy. And therefore, emerging technology adoption is also one of the key drivers for that reboot. And among, all these emerging technology, then I will find the following major ones will take off quite prominently in the near future. The first one will be 5G, China being the pioneer in adopting a countrywide, 5G backbone network. Then it will form a platform for the adoption of many, emerging technology. And it will try to unlock a lot of new business opportunities and also opens up new use cases. Secondly, will be automation of manufacturing through adoption of, say, robotics, sensors, and IoT, Internet of Things technology under the 5G environment, which will be a focus of development. The reason behind this, because many production facilities around the group are still under a certain level of lockdown at the moment, and therefore China, being the world factory, which is in full production mode, will have to think of ways in order to increase its production supply and also make production more efficient. And then thirdly, is AI. All people have been talking about it, and China has prided itself in the artificial intelligence research and commercialization. AI will be more widely adopted in order to increase efficiency, reduce cost, and also eliminate human intervention in many of the business processes. And then the next one will come is digitalization, because when more and more transactions and processes go digital, there will be a large volume of data being generated. And therefore, there's a genuine need to properly store, analyze, and protect the data. And therefore, we will be seeing cloud storage and cloud computing will be a key technology to boom in China as well as in other countries. Last but not the least, guess many of you should have heard that China is one of the pioneer countries in implementing its central bank digital currency. The successful rollout and circulation of a digital currency or cryptocurrency hinges on a secure and encrypted system developed under the blockchain technology. And therefore, it is expected there will be a growing adoption of blockchain technology with all transactions being encrypted in a distributed ledger, which will eliminate a lot of intermediary and also save transaction costs. And these are my observations.
Thank you, Wilson. So with this emerging technology, and the Secretary of Justice mentioned about GBA, GBA is an acronym for Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area. I think Albert mentioned about the 9+2, which is the 2 special administrative region of Hong Kong and Macau, plus the 9 cities in the Guangdong province, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhuhai, Foshan, Huizhou, Dongguan, Zhongshan, Jiangmen, Zhaoxing in the Guangdong province. They have 56,000 square kilometers and about 72 million plus population. So one of the strategic pillar, I think, for GBA is to be a globally influential international innovation and technology hub. So Albert, what are the opportunities for startups or SMEs, and how can Science Technology Park help? And whether there's any sharing with Brazil or Chile, where I believe innovation is growing also.
Yeah, I think I think all the panelists talk about the opportunity in the Greater Bay Area, 70+ million population. I think that's a big number, and close proximity to each other, same culture, and you got to. I'm sure you heard about Shenzhen as the kind of the growing Silicon Valley of China in the past few years. Technology has been growing so fast, and GDP has surpassed Hong Kong. So Shenzhen is a huge opportunity and a huge technology base. And Hong Kong has been designated by the Chinese central government as the future tech hub of the country. And the difference between Hong Kong and Shenzhen is that we actually have 4 universities in Hong Kong that are ranked top 50 in the world in one city. Whereas if you look at the Greater Bay Area in Guangdong, there is none. So we have a very strong research base. While you go to the Greater Bay Area, Shenzhen and Guangzhou, there's a big application area. So this is how I would look at it. And the other way you want to look at it is that there are many kind of the twin city kind of arrangement in the world, like New York and Boston and San Francisco, San Diego, London, Paris, whatever. But these are all far away. I mean, when I work in Boston, it's 4 hours drive from New York to Boston. It is 2-hour drive from San Diego to San Francisco. But it is just across the border between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. Just imagine that kind of cooperation. And we have a strong research base, a global financial hub in Hong Kong. And then across the border in Shenzhen, you have all of a sudden you're looking at a big market in Shenzhen in China. It is very much the Boston, New York kind of twin city, but much closer. Same culture, and I think this is a big opportunity. But when it comes to technology, there's the certain role that Hong Kong play in terms of research, and financial hub. And at Science Park, we would organize a lot of incubation programs in Hong Kong, research and development, and explore businesses in Greater Bay Area. I think this is a huge opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So Thomas, you mentioned about the advantage for Hong Kong. So how can Latin American companies or business leverage Hong Kong as a regional base to expand into GBA or into mainland China?
Yes, thank you, David, for this question. Recently, I am using, of course, very strongly the tax advantage of Hong Kong to enter into China, for my Latin American clients. But on top of this now, I'm also using, the technology advantage of Hong Kong, where Hong Kong now is also very strong in the e-commerce or cross-border e-commerce, meaning that if Latin American clients want to do business in the GBA, they can first use Hong Kong as a financial hub first, then use Hong Kong's international network, to place their products on the e-commerce platform or cross-border e-commerce platform before entering into the GBA. Here in Hong Kong, we can help you to make sales online, and then we can also help you, in doing some financial planning as well. Plus, we have a very good incubation system in Hong Kong by Science Park, where we can incubate a lot of startups from Latin America, namely from Chile, from Mexico, from Colombia, Medellin, where I'm now working closely with an institution called Ruta N. And of course, in Brazil, there are many startups, in Sao Paulo, where I hope to bring esports to Hong Kong as well. So there are a lot of advantages using Hong Kong as a hub, not only financially, but also as a business hub. Now we call online business hub, to enter into the Greater Bay Area, and then ultimately to the Greater China, making use, of the 1.4 billion population we China have. So this is, I personally, I see there will be lots of opportunities, for Latin Americans, to come to Hong Kong before entering into the Greater Bay Area and then China. I always advise my Latin clients now in business, not just only you have to pay attention to the tax system, to the business environment, but always on top of these two, be a first mover, just be a first mover. But now you don't have to travel to Hong Kong. You can do everything online here, with Hong Kong to enter into the GBA. Be a first mover. This is the important message I want to tell all my Latin American friends this morning here in Hong Kong. Thank you, David.
Thank you. So Wilson, Albert mentioned about Shenzhen, and we know some of your tech giant clients are based in Shenzhen. How do you see Hong Kong in supporting the development of innovation and technology, and what are the competitive advantages that Hong Kong can offer?
Yeah, thank you, David. I think that we have Albert here, that he should be the more relevant person and to say how Hong Kong grew, startup business. But from my standpoint, apart from Science Park, in fact, we also have another hub called Cyberport, which serves as a base in order to help the startup to groom its business. Why we think that Hong Kong would be good is, as mentioned by the other panelists, because Hong Kong is an international city and also it serves as springboard to tap into Southeast Asia and also the whole mainland China. And therefore, because of its geopolitical position being located, which serves as a connection between the East and the West, and therefore Hong Kong has always been seen as a hub for startup in order to start off with its business. And other thing is, because I'm an accountant, and I always talk about money, that this is an easy access of capital in Hong Kong. That is because Hong Kong, we have our Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and also we have a lot of private equity fund, no matter it is RMB based or US dollar based, and they have a headquarters or have a operation in Hong Kong, and therefore it somehow serves as a channel for the startup, the founders, in order to tap on the initial capital. And also because we have an international stock exchange, and therefore those investors will easily to get exit from the Hong Kong market. And as you earlier mentioned about the GBA, the Greater Bay Area, and Hong Kong is also geographically located in the center of GBA, and also just across the border to Shenzhen, being the technology hub. And therefore, there will be seamless, transition of talents, and also technology between the two places. Then why I'm now in Shenzhen, that is because I also got my transfer from the Hong Kong office to Shenzhen office, and then have the connection between the startup between the two places, and also have to groom the industry. And therefore, I will see that Hong Kong is always a very good place. And then another thing will be the the low tax regime that you also touched on earlier before. That is because for many of the cross-border type of trading, that tax is always a concern. And if we talk about trading between Latin America and also China and also mainland China and Hong Kong, we need very proper tax planning in order to minimize the tax exposure. And therefore, Hong Kong is in a low tax regime by geographically located some operation in Hong Kong, structuring the processes, transaction through Hong Kong, then there will be, genuine and also legitimate tax planning, which can be effectuated, which lower down the effective tax rate for the whole transaction. And that is my observation.
Okay, thank you, Wilson. I think our Secretary of Justice also mentioned about the trade between Sino and Latin America and using Hong Kong as an entrepot. And then we also have the Belt and Road initiatives, which I think many of you have heard. But on trade, not necessary for science part as you look at it, but Albert, what would be your suggestions in terms of commercialization of innovation or technology? How could companies commercialize their product and then enter into the China or Southeast Asian market?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about the Greater Bay Area, the China market, but not to forget we are also just next door to the Southeast Asian market, the Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, Malaysia. They're all really next door. I think this is a very big opportunity for different type of culture, and you can come here as a base to improve your products and to develop applications and make the mass production in Greater Bay Area and then sell it to everywhere in the world. I think there's a lot of different things we can do. But then I just want to add one thing to the discussion about why do you want to do it in Hong Kong in terms of trade, is that in Hong Kong, you can have free flow of goods and services, right? Free flow of money, free flow of people, and free flow of data. These are the four things. So goods and services, money, people, and data. And imagine this, you come here and this is a free port, duty-free, data, money, people, and products. This is a area where you can do a lot of trade and business development.
Okay, thank you. So Thomas, I personally also have advised a lot of clients about setting up a cross-border e-commerce platform. As you know, entering into selling products into China, there are regulatory requirements, there's license and permits. So the complexity of first selling a product into China is complicated, and it could be scary for newcomers to the market. But there's this cross-border e-commerce that we can leverage Hong Kong. Do you have anything you want to share with the audience about cross-border e-commerce?
Yes. Now, first of all, I have been advising my Latin American clients to pay attention not only on the tax system, as I have mentioned earlier, but also do their business online, using the growing cross-border e-commerce that we China have right now, and using Hong Kong as a hub to enter China through this e-commerce platform. So one thing I have noticed is that right now the population, about only 710 million people out of 1.4 billion are using online for transaction. All right. That is to say only 50% of the people are using online for transaction. So therefore, because of COVID right now and because of this pandemic, a lot of people would gradually, even in China, use online, to do transaction. And also, of course, in Hong Kong, we are using online to do transaction these days. So therefore, what is important is for Latin American clients, to place their products online here in Hong Kong, and then ask Hong Kong, with the help of Invest Hong Kong, to get into the China market. Invest Hong Kong will ultimately, of course, find B2B or B2C buyers potential, for the Latin American clients. So this is a very, very huge market. Bearing in mind, as the Secretary for Justice has mentioned just now, the Sino-Latin American trade has been growing tremendously in terms of number. For me personally, I am very fond of, the natural products of Latin America. In Brazil is the coffee. In Colombia, also coffee. In Mexico would be avocado. In Chile would be red wine. So you don't have to come physically to Hong Kong to sell your products like before. All you need is to find a good intermediary, help you, with the e-commerce or cross-border e-commerce to place your product on the cyber world, and then the intermediary, of course, will be, in this context, will be Invest Hong Kong. We will, help you to find B2B or B2C buyers. And then don't worry about the physical flow of the products, because Hong Kong has a very good customs clearance. And then in China, we will also find the right transportation company to make sure your products will be delivered, maybe even door to door. All right, so this is what I'm now helping the Latin American clients. In particularly, I am doing a lot on coffee right now, Brazil coffee. All right, that's all what I want to share with all my Latin friends this morning. There are tremendous opportunities in the Greater Bay Area in China. And of course, as Albert just now mentioned, even, the proximity of Hong Kong is just, we are next to another huge market is called Southeast Asia. So we can use e-commerce to deliver your products even to the Southeast Asian market, again, through Invest Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Wilson, you mentioned just now about, Hong Kong can be used as a financial hub for fundraising and things like that. But what is the thought process? I mean, obviously there are other markets, in the US, Hong Kong, Singapore. But why do you think that recently there are a lot of tech giants that got, second listing in Hong Kong? Maybe you can share with us the thought process of them coming to Hong Kong.
Yeah. I think, first of all, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange is an international stock exchange with a well-established, reputation. And also because, like the other panelists has already mentioned several times, that we are a springboard to two huge markets, the mainland China market, as well as the Southeast Asia market. And therefore, it would be so good for a company to be a listed company on the Hong Kong Exchange, and so to get the reputation in order to expand its businesses, as well as to attract potential investor into the company to achieve, financial arrangement. And also as a listed company in Hong Kong, then it would be easily get that good reputation in order to form joint venture, partnership, alliances with many of these, startup or mature company in mainland China, as well as in Southeast Asia, and so as to really try to monetize their operation in a more efficient way. And also, I may also need to mention that is because of the geopolitical tension between US and China. And if you are a China link operation, then you may have some fear that there will be potential restriction, sanction that may be imposed on China operation. Then if you are somehow a listed company in US, then there may be some restriction in your ongoing expansion. And therefore, people will choose Hong Kong as a somehow a more neutral position in order to list its shares and also to gain access to the capital funding.
Okay, thank you. So I think our time is up. Welcome any questions that you may have from the audience. So I've got here some in I think Spanish and Portuguese, which I'm trying to get some translation. But I do have one question for the panelists. In fact, with the distance, with the time zone, with the different challenges, how should our Latin American friends or businesses, leverage Hong Kong and start doing their business in Asia? So.
Thank you. Thank you, David, and thank you, Albert. Okay. I personally, in my last 15 years of experience, in dealing with Latin America, I think we are very fond of the natural resources of Latin America. Basically, here in Hong Kong or even in China, we would like to import a lot of natural products. For example, just now I mentioned coffee. I mentioned about avocado. I also mentioned about wine, all right, vino blanco, vino, So therefore, I would like to advise, those Latin American clients, if they have good connections or whether they are farmers or manufacturers, over there in Latin America, please make sure or use Hong Kong as a hub, our e-commerce platform, our cross-border e-commerce platform to enter China to sell your natural products. Because we have 1.4 billion people. So we are buying a lot now, coffee, red wine, and also one more thing that I have noticed recently, of course, is soybean, okay, from Brazil. So there are lots of chances. So I would like to once again to stress the importance of Hong Kong, not only as a financial hub where we have a lot of good system or even private equity fund or good incubation system here in Hong Kong, but we are now it's a base that where you can do business online. For the Latinos, you don't have to travel here. Only you find the right intermediary. The right intermediary, of course, go with the government first. The government, of course, here in Hong Kong is go with Invest Hong Kong first. We bring you here to Hong Kong, be the first mover, and then you just invest a little bit of your time. Poco tiempo. Little bit of your time, little bit of your money, and place your products here online and then sell into the Greater Bay Area. We will help you. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one question about cryptocurrency. I think Wilson mentioned about crypto. So can cryptocurrency be used in Hong Kong on e-commerce?
Currently, we are not permissible to use say cryptocurrency for e-commerce, that we only use say the digital currency under a mobile payment platform for the settlement. But going forward, I think every country is now say studying how to make commercialization of cryptocurrency. The reason behind is because a cryptocurrency is not a fiat currency. That people have been talking about the digital currency in China, the e-CNY. In fact, the e-CNY is a fiat currency that is backed by the normal RMB. That is $1 in paper notes or in coin of the RMB will translate to one digital RMB. But for cryptocurrency, for example, like Bitcoin, in fact, is not supported by any asset base. And therefore, we really need a say treasury system, a country monetary system in order to control the circulation as well as to control the flow before it's being accepted as a official legal tender. And therefore, I would think that things are moving towards this way, but up to this moment, cryptocurrency will not be used as a legal tender in Hong Kong.
Okay, thank you, Wilson. We have another questions about medical device. How can they help to import into China market in respect of the regulatory in the hospital? Yeah. So Albert,
so medical device is a very important part of our technology development in Hong Kong and also China. And if you are making or doing development of medical device, we will help you do all the regulatory approval, clinical trial for FDA or CFDA in China. We also have some communal laboratories where we can help you complete your development. So this is a very important kind of vertical strategic market that we want to expand on. So talk to Invest Hong Kong, and they will help you come to Hong Kong and explore the market.
Okay, thank you. So and I think we our time is almost up, but I want to go around the panel. You have any closing remarks about doing to grow internationally from Hong Kong, which is the theme of the panel. So Albert?
Yeah, I think we talked a lot about Greater Bay Area, Southeast Asia, Belt and Road. I think the lifestyle in Hong Kong is very much Western, and you are in Hong Kong because of one country, two system. When you're in Hong Kong, I mean, I remember when I was in GE, we talked about it. Is that you are in China, but you're not really in China. I think that's the beauty of it. You have the opportunity to live a Western style lifestyle and low tax and free flow of money, free flow of products and people and data. And at the same time, you're next door to the big market. So this is a entry and exit of the big market. I feel good being here and hope that you feel good being here too.
Yes, for me, my closing would be, just now I mentioned, that we here in Hong Kong and China would love to buy a lot of natural resources from Latin America. But why not concentrate on two main items? One is food and the other is frutas, all right? So make use of our Invest Hong Kong. We have a very strong section for fruits and food. So we can help those producers or manufacturers, in Latin America to sell their fruits and food online here in Hong Kong and then go into the Greater Bay Area and the Greater China, all right? So this is my advice. And of course, for any big questions or questions how to sell your food or fruits, our Director General, Stephen Phillips, afterwards, maybe at his closing remarks, he can tell the Latin people, how to do it with his department. One of his department, very famous in Hong Kong, is called the Food and Hospitality Department. Yeah.
Wilson, any closing remarks?
Okay. As an accountant, then I still talk about money. First of all, I would think that Hong Kong, because as I said, we have an international stock exchange, and we are also so close to the GBA area, of which say investor would be so easily to find target, and also target would be so easy to tap into a potential investor for funding. And the investor, after making the investment, will have where they exit through a established stock exchange in order to realize the return. And also for the tax system in Hong Kong, that we are well known as a low tax regime, and therefore we can make best use of Hong Kong as a springboard to set up the intermediate operation or the headquarter operation, and so as to radiate the operation, but at the same time enjoy the low tax rate in Hong Kong. And that's my remarks.
Thank you. So thank you, Invest Hong Kong and the Department of Justice for co-hosting the event, and thank you, our distinguished panelists, for sharing their experience. And I hope we can come to, our Latin American friends can come to visit us in Hong Kong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Moving on with the program today, we will commence the second panel. The objective of the following 30 minutes is to explore why and how risk mitigation and dispute resolution when doing cross-border trade. During the panel, should you have any question, please raise your questions via the chat room. The panelists will be happy to answer them. The moderator of our second panel is Mr. Anthony Neo, Chairman of the Asian Academy of International Law. Dr. Anthony Neo is a senior member of the Hong Kong Bar, specializing in international litigation, arbitration, and financial regulatory matters. Anthony, can you spell it?
Very good then. Well, good evening, everyone in Latin America, and we're very pleased to talk to you from a very nice morning in Hong Kong. And with me are three members, senior members of the legal profession in Hong Kong. Paul Starr next to me, Paul. And Paul is a infrastructure lawyer as well as a dispute resolution lawyer. So he has done a lot of projects in the Belt and Road. And therefore, he's going to share some of that experience with you. Edward is an experienced dispute resolution lawyer. He's really done something groundbreaking work, in fact, on enforcing interim measures in dispute resolution in China. And Thomas, he chairs, in fact, one of the newest undertakings in Hong Kong, which is an electronic platform for dispute resolution. We call this EBRAM, and I'm going to ask Thomas in a moment to explain what EBRAM means and how that could actually offer to our friends in Latin America. So first, I'm going to ask Paul just to start off with to share some of your experience in your work.
Well, thank you very much, Tony. As you can see, I'm Chinese. I'm a member of
we're all Chinese in Hong Kong.
China mainland's largest law firms, and as you say, I look to infrastructure, and I'm very happy to answer any questions that are posed.
Very good. Now then, Edward, anything you'd like to say to start off the discussion?
Yeah, indeed, that I'm Chinese. I'm native Chinese, and I think that one of the advantages we all going to share is why Hong Kong is the best place that you can choose to mitigate your risk and also arbitrate or resolve your disputes, especially that anything relating to China. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm also Chinese. I'm born and brought up in Hong Kong. Anthony just raised a question. EBRAM, what does it stand for? It's electronic, what you can call it Electronic Belt and Road Arbitration and Mediation Center, or you can call it Electronic Business Related Arbitration and Mediation Center. So we can use it both ways. But you will hear more about my organization later.
Excellent. Now, like Thomas, of course, I'm Chinese, but I'm native Hong Kong, born and bred in Hong Kong. So now the interesting thing about all of this discussion is that we have two connections. The first connection is that we're all Chinese. The second connection is that we're all connected in some very serious way with Hong Kong. And one of the serious things that Hong Kong does for people is that it is an important connector between the whole world, China, and what China does. Now, of course, China does a lot of things around the world now, and Paul is one of the persons who's really done a lot of that. Now, your experience in terms of Hong Kong, why do you think that Hong Kong is important to the rest of the world? What does Hong Kong offer?
Well, I think Hong Kong has so much to offer. I'm sure we're going to cover many of the topics, but perhaps I can just start from the dispute resolution end, if you don't mind, because it's quite topical at the moment. We've seen newspaper articles, particularly in the London press, suggesting that businesses are looking to hold their arbitrations in other jurisdictions. And my main message, Tony, is that when you are doing business with mainland Chinese parties, whether it's in Hong Kong or anywhere in the world, you really should think very seriously about choosing Hong Kong as your arbitration forum, your seat of arbitration. And I also would recommend Hong Kong law, but particularly choosing Hong Kong. Now, why do I say that? I think two main reasons in particular for me. Firstly, asset preservation. And that is if you're doing business with mainland Chinese party, let's say in Brazil or Argentina, for example, if you choose Hong Kong arbitration, then even before the arbitration starts or early on in the arbitration, you can get asset preservation in China mainland from a court to protect or freeze assets while the arbitration proceeds until you get your award. Now, you cannot do that if you select arbitration in any other jurisdiction in the world. It's an absolutely unique benefit. And Edward's going to talk about that a lot more later this evening. But I just wanted to stress that first and foremost. Yes. You go ahead, the only other thing I wanted to, the second thing I wanted to stress was the wonderful court system we have here. Now, when you're thinking about a dispute on the Belt and Road or anywhere in the world, you need to think, well, I'm going to arbitration, but you may need help from the courts. And Hong Kong has a very, very independent set of courts and one of the finest courts of final appeal in the world. And I'm going through 2 processes from arbitration at the moment, which need court assistance. And I'm very happy that I'm in Hong Kong because, look at the other courts in Asia, some of the other Asian jurisdictions. Are you going to get the same degree of independence? Are you going to get the same fear of the, independence from the government in other Asian jurisdictions? I'm not so sure, Tony, that you would. Hong Kong gives you that magnificent independence. So starting at that point, looking at the Belt and Road, looking at the dispute resolution clause, very few people look at. I think it's very important to think about Hong Kong.
One of the questions that people do raise about Hong Kong, of course, recently there's been the national security law that's been passed by the National People's Congress. Now there are national security judges in our court. Does that affect commercial arbitration in your line of business?
I haven't seen it affecting any aspect of my business. And, I think providing people understand the national security law and abide by the national security law would be the same in any country. I'm sure most participants' countries certainly have got national security laws. China mainland's got also national security law. I don't think, it really has posed a problem at all in doing business. It's caused a lot of political comment, but I think as long as one recognizes that here we are doing business and we are trying to strive to operate legally, it shouldn't cause a problem at all.
Now, we just talked about the Hong Kong courts. Let's try and talk about China, for example, because the arbitration awards that are issued in Hong Kong,
Yes.
They have to be enforced around the world, including within mainland China.
Exactly.
Edward, you have done some groundbreaking work on that. Perhaps you could share some of your experience.
Sure, definitely. I think the advantage of Hong Kong is that, first of all, for whatever the arbitral award issued in Hong Kong, published in Hong Kong, can be enforced in the world, honestly. First of all, because Hong Kong is a part of, it's one of, has the new convention is applied to Hong Kong. And therefore that for all the states which are the members of the new convention, then the Hong Kong award can be enforced. And secondly, because of the arrangement, the mutual arrangement between Hong Kong and the mainland China, then for the awards issued in Hong Kong or issued in the mainland China can be enforced in either of these 2 jurisdictions. So that is first thing, and especially that the arrangement has been in place for more than 23 years already, 22 years already, and it proves that it's very effective, very useful. That because of the attitude now of the Chinese judiciary towards the arbitration, international arbitration, it's sort of same as any award that's being enforced in China, that it can be enforced unless because of the limited grounds under the new convention that you cannot enforce the award. Secondly, as Paul just mentioned, that the very unique position of Hong Kong is because of the intermeasure arrangement, which came into effect in 2019. That, as I said, making Hong Kong very unique because except Hong Kong, there's no other jurisdiction which has such kind of advantage to also, as Paul said, that you can choose to even freeze the assets of your opposing parties' assets in mainland before commencement of the arbitration, and of course during the arbitration. And if you got your arbitration on board and you still want to enforce the opposing parties' assets in mainland, you can then go back to the enforcement regiment, as I mentioned, then to freeze the assets that belong to the other side. So that's making Hong Kong have the full picture, especially the one part that the other jurisdictions that do not have is to arrest the assets belongs to the opposing parties in mainland.
So the interim measures is actually a device whereby one party can actually get help from the courts to protect the fruit of its award eventually. Yeah. Otherwise, you could get nothing. That's the most important thing in any piece of litigation.
Exactly.
In fact, now you have done the first case of interim measures in Hong Kong.
Yes, true.
Give us a little bit of your experience on this one. Is it efficient? quick?
Yes, it's very thank you very much, Anthony, for your question. It's very efficient, very quick, honestly, because the reason why I got the first one is because it was the 8 days after the intermeasure arrangement came into effect. Then I've already got the first intermeasure order from the Shanghai Maritime Court. And it's the arbitration that I was handling is HKIC arbitration, Hong Kong International Arbitration Court Arbitration Center's arbitration. And HKIC is one of the eligible institutions for the people who can apply the intermeasure orders from mainland courts. And when you want to apply that intermeasure, the very practical tip and very short one is that you make the application to the HKIC first, and then to get a certificate from the HKIC certifying that you are having arbitration with them. And then you find a very good Chinese lawyer who can help you to make the arrangement with the relevant Chinese court at the mainland court, and then to make all the papers ready to the handling judge. And basically, it will take in normal procedure, except for my one, it's very special one, but normally it would take like 1 or 2 weeks. Of course, something if complicated may take 1 month, but basically it's very efficient and can achieve the purpose of freezing the other side's property and then to help you to secure your claim.
When did you get that order?
The 8th of October 2019. And yes, I know, Anthony, why you ask, because the arrangement only came into effect on the 1st October. And also because that was the golden week in mainland, you know, the national day holiday. And therefore the 8th October is the first working day after the 1 week holiday.
I asked you this because at that very time, in fact, there were 5 Shanghai judges actually in Hong Kong as visiting scholars, and they were visiting the Hong Kong courts.
Okay.
At that very time.
Okay.
Trying to learn from our system.
Yeah, great. That's it.
So, I wanted to just go to Thomas now, because nowadays, because of COVID and so on, and we now have a revolution in dispute resolution. You know, the cases that I hear, and both Edward and then you do, and all 4 of us do, nowadays are done through the internet. A lot of those. Very few now actually physical hearings. In fact, I'm starting one next Monday, but anyway. But now you now have a platform which actually is right on key, basically, with this trend. Tell us a bit about eBrand.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, actually, Hong Kong has been studying methods of reducing costs as well as increasing efficiency in helping clients to resolve disputes, particularly cross-border disputes. And so we come up with this eBrand platform. Primarily, we are a technology-driven online dispute resolution center, but we also provide services to assist clients to reach deal, in the sense that we provide an online platform with technology support to help clients either to do mediation or arbitration or negotiation with a view to reaching agreement online. In so doing, when we look at cross-border arbitration in particular, historically, the most time and cost-consuming aspects are, first, people have to physically attend hearing, meaning that people have to fly around, time-consuming and cost. So we have this secured video conferencing facility that would enable parties to attend hearing virtually without the need of flying people around, including parties, lawyers, witnesses. So that is the first. That technology would provide us, and we specifically tailor-made our technology to secure data protection and cybersecurity for the purpose, for the specific use in dispute resolution and contract making. And second, that we will be rolling out a machine learning function to support language translation. Now we see from our experience that in dealing with cross-border dispute resolution, much time and money goes to doing translation because we have parties from different jurisdictions speaking different languages, and you need to have different languages translated to other languages known to the tribunal and to other parties, and that was time and cost consuming. So we will be rolling out a function enabling a much quicker and much cost-efficient way of having AI and machine learning function to support translation facility to enable language to be translated more quickly and more efficiently for use for our client. So basically, that is the trend, and we are lucky enough that we've set up for almost 2 years now, and we are slowly. First, we are targeting the market that there are relatively, small SME market where their cross-border disputes, according to our survey, were not pursued over the past 10 or 15 years because it was considered that it is not cost effective. So
one of the things that that I find in international arbitrations is that each party has a lot of documents, and they send the documents to the arbitration tribunal by way of an electronic system. Sometimes it's sort of hard to get at. The other thing is that each party has their own system. And what I find useful, but not yet been done, is for the arbitration commission or the place that administers the arbitration to have a one place where you can have all the documents on a cloud system, so that everybody can access that, and people can then put it on screen pretty quickly during the process. Are you going to offer some?
Oh yeah, well, we have that function already because we are treating. We are opening different virtual room or virtual file, if you like, for parties who log into our system. So, for example, if you have an applicant or respondent, you can each have one of your own room, virtual room. That is, nobody else can access that. You can only access that. Then maybe you and your client share that room. Then you can share information, share document, and then you can decide in that room as to what documents you would submit to the arbitration tribunal. So similarly, then we will open a room, a jointly access room, to kind of house and bundle up documents that both parties agreed to put before the tribunal in an electronic format.
This is excellent. The other thing now, of course, with we're talking South America, Latin America, because they use the civil law system in there, of course, whereas in Hong Kong, we use the common law system. Now, I'd like to ask all three of you, and I'll start with Paul. And if you have clients who are very used to the civil law system, and now they come to Hong Kong to arbitrate, but if you go to China, China has a civil law system. So how does that, in fact, work with the common law system that we have in dispute resolution?
Well, I think arbitration is very international. And I think that obviously we have civil law arbitrators, we have common law arbitrators often sitting together on the same panel. And I think arbitration is very adaptable. And I think that whether you're doing an arbitration in Latin America, in London, in Dubai, Paris, or Hong Kong, you're grappling with the same situation as to whether you're going to follow a sort of a common law type model or a civil law type model or a hybrid of the two. I really don't see that as a problem at all.
Procedure-wise?
Procedurally, I think it is very, very clear. There are rules of the arbitration institutions that assist greatly with the procedure of an arbitration. And I think on the Belt and Road, I haven't experienced any problem with civil parties coming in time to deal with common law concepts, or indeed going into China and dealing with the civil law side of enforcement, for example. I think it's something that we as practitioners can help with. And I don't think people should be scared of that. I think it's very workable.
What about the substantive law? We just talked about the procedure, yeah? The substantive law, civil law, and common law, they operate in different spheres and different legal philosophies. Does that in any way clash if you have an arbitration in Hong Kong? Sometimes you have lawyers, let us say from Rio de Janeiro or from Mexico City or and so on, coming from an arbitration, all schooled in the civil law. And then the other side, QCs from London, for example, all schooled in the common law. How does that work?
The only way I've seen it clash is culturally. I think sometimes it takes, it's very difficult to explain to civil parties the importance, for example, of witness statements or cross-examination. It's quite difficult sometimes to explain that you have to disclose documents that are not necessarily favorable to your case in common law systems. So culturally, I see a difficulty. Procedurally, substantively, we have very successfully managed that type of arbitration, each of us.
Yes.
I don't think that's at all a problem. And I think it's a very, very successful way of doing arbitration. In fact.
What do you think about this? Is civil law and common law is always seen as a divide?
Well, actually,
you've done civil law in China as well.
Yeah, true, exactly. Actually, I'm qualified in both China and also England and Wales, so that I'm I think a hybrid of all the qualifications that is both common law and civil law. But I think, as Paul explained, that indeed for international arbitration, it is very internationalized. And the common ground, the common rules, and the common procedures are quite similar. And of course, that for the substantial law, if the party, that really depends on the party's choice, that whether they choose, for example, Hong Kong law, English law, or Chinese law, or Brazilian law to be their governing law of the contract. So if the party have already choose that substantive law, then there should be no problem. But if you choose Hong Kong, you will not have, for example, a common law procedure or civil law procedure. Actually, it's an international procedure that you have in Hong Kong. And secondly, I think at the beginning, Tony, you mentioned that using the word important connector being a Hong Kong, the Hong Kong's role. I think all we call it as a super connector. That is, I think, the advantage and also the unique advantage of Hong Kong because of the one country, two systems. That on one side, that Hong Kong is a part of China, there's no doubt about it. On the other hand, Hong Kong is a part of the common law world, I would say, from the two system perspective. That making Hong Kong very unique, that we have the very diversified, actually now you see the pool, the panel of the members here that is very diversified, that we have native Hong Kong people, we have the native Chinese people, and we have the people who are already Chinese, but more international. So the Western face here. So that this is Hong Kong actually. This is the Hong Kong's advantage.
So we have the best of all worlds.
Exactly. Yes.
But which brings me to one question. In fact, it's a very interesting question that's come from the audience, and it is this. And I'm going to ask Thomas a moment about this. And this is really going to the connector point, is that the question that they ask is whether, in fact, a partnership could be put in place with the government so that they could give legal support to companies and factories which would export to the Greater Bay Area, which of course includes Hong Kong, but using Hong Kong as a base of arbitration. Now, is that a viable idea? We do have Invest Hong Kong, of course, here. And in the GBA, we have a lot of local situations like Shanghai and Hangqin and so on and so forth, like each of these. Yeah? Yes. And I know you have a lot of experience working with those people and things like CEPA in Hong Kong and so on. Perhaps you could say something about this.
Yes.
You could help our audience.
Yes, I think that that is entirely possible in that. Apart from Invest Hong Kong, as far as I know, our government has been very keen in promoting Hong Kong as an international dispute resolution center, and probably because of COVID, that may have not been traveling as much as before. But then that is definitely on the agenda of the government, and also for our friends from Latin America. If you have any questions, queries, or need for example, free legal advice, I'm sure that Invest Hong Kong, Hong Kong Trade Development Council, and also the Hong Kong Law Society, if you go onto their website, they would have services like that to assist you in providing preliminary advice for you, for example, setting up business in Hong Kong, or if you decide to put in an arbitration clause to choose Hong Kong as seat of arbitration, and all that services, I'm sure that you'll be able to find from the Hong Kong organizations.
Indeed, the Hong Kong Invest Hong Kong website, in fact, has a lot of links, in fact, which includes exactly the same links that Thomas has been talking about. The Asian Academy of International Law, Hong Kong Law Society, all of these, in fact, will give you links to do that. The other thing also is that apart from Invest Hong Kong, the Hong Kong SAR actually has a coordinating office for the Greater Bay Area. And the coordinating office, in fact, works with everybody, every city in the Greater Bay Area to see what services they can help offer to people from outside wishing to do business with them. So and that website actually could come through the Invest Hong Kong website as well. So they have an excellent website, and I think you should actually make use of that service. We have about 5 minutes left, and I'd like to, no other questions at the moment. So I'd like to just raise one thing, which is enforcement. Now, we talk about the unique position of Hong Kong, which is enforcing Hong Kong awards as well as protecting, in fact, assets in China if there is an arbitration going on in Hong Kong. So that's pretty unique. But the other unique thing is this, isn't it? Because Hong Kong is part of China. And China, of course, is a member of the New York Convention. Mm-hmm. So which means that a Hong Kong award can actually be enforced throughout the world, yes, by way of the New York Convention. And I'll ask Paul that you have no doubt enforced Hong Kong awards in places other than China.
Yes, all over the world.
And what's been your experience?
I think it's been extremely good. I think that because of Hong Kong's pedigree as a primary location for arbitration, I haven't found it difficult to persuade courts in other countries under the New York Convention to recognize Hong Kong awards. And interestingly enough, the last one I had to do was in the United States of America. And some people say, well, there's a lot of political tension between China and the United States. But more recently, I haven't.
New York, California?
Delaware.
Delaware,
yeah. And I hadn't. I appreciated that, again, Hong Kong was so respected by the courts there. A lot of companies, of course, are incorporated in Delaware. And so that's where one goes quite often now to enforce in the United States. And I think no problems at all in that regard.
No, the Supreme Court justices, in fact, which are very, very good on company law. In fact, they come and visit us from time to time and exchange views with our people. So Randy Holland was one of the, just retired actually. So he's a very well-respected Supreme Court justice and well known to us in Hong Kong. Yeah. The other thing, I think there are other questions now. Let's see what this one is that. Says that as an agricultural producer in South America, is there any advantage to set up office in Hong Kong in terms of making use of the arbitration benefits in Hong Kong? Now, interesting question. Agricultural producers is very important now, of course. Food security is very, very important.
In fact, I brought with me a Latin American success, Tony, in Hong Kong. That is grapes from Peru.
This is really I can sense Paul is loving it.
Many of our fruits now come from Latin America. These are Peruvian grapes. We'll share those a bit later. So agriculture becoming increasingly important. And what I think I want to say about the Greater Bay Area, the opportunities for Latin American countries, I'm sure the first panel spoke about that, are absolutely vast. And what Hong Kong is offering, not just in terms of arbitration, but really is a cradle to grave service, from investment through to technical services and legal professional services, and then on to dispute resolution. And the great benefit, I think, of using Hong Kong, first of all, the government of China, the PRC government, has encouraged Hong Kong to become this receptacle of disputes for the Belt and Road, including the Greater Bay Area. So you've got the support of the government, first of all, in that initiative. But secondly, the benefits that we've started to speak about, whether it is benefits in terms of asset preservation, benefits in terms of enforcement, benefits in terms of electronic management of disputes, benefits in terms of the judiciary in Hong Kong, the use of English language if you wish it, all of those benefits really show great advantages for agricultural producers to set up their office in Hong Kong. And I said again that anywhere in the world that you're doing business, even if you're doing business on the Belt and Road in Latin America itself, you should think seriously about Hong Kong as your arbitration seat. And in fact, I remember visiting a Belt and Road country before the lockdown, and the government there was saying, let them arbitrate here. In other words, let investors come to their country and arbitrate. And once we had explained to them the great advantages of Hong Kong, they actually changed their mind and they've written Hong Kong arbitration into their dispute clause.
Excellent. The other thing, of course, is trade law. Yeah. And there's a tremendous benefit, in fact, as Hong Kong as a independent member of the World Trade Organization, so is the mainland China. And we have free trade agreements with China, which actually is extremely beneficial, in fact, for companies in Hong Kong.
Can I add one point, actually?
Yeah.
It's based on my real practice experience that, of course, it's not from a South American company, but from the South Asia company. Well, one question that they raise is whether I should choose Hong Kong to arbitrate. I prefer to choose Singapore or Kuala Lumpur to arbitrate their disputes. But on the other hand, then the Chinese party, because that was a trade, the trade contract. The other side is a Beijing-based company. They prefer to have the arbitration in Beijing, and therefore, finally, that Hong Kong be the common ground of both parties. Because on one side, that from the Chinese company's perspective, Hong Kong is part of China, so they are still, if any disputes rising, they are still arbitrated in home. But on the other hand, because Hong Kong, as we all elaborated, because of one country, two system, because of the common law jurisdiction, then it's known to the world that Hong Kong is a neutral place, and then therefore that it is a and make no hesitation for the other side to choose Hong Kong to arbitrate. So,
but one question, of course, is cost. And there's one question here is that I'm a very small company, so I'm not a Hong Kong registered company. Does it cost me a great deal? Now, EBRAM is set up exactly for that purpose. Perhaps Thomas,
yes,
could help.
Good, thank you, Tony. Now, if the dispute is related to COVID, you have a very special deal if you come to Hong Kong and use EBRAM, because we have a government-run supported scheme where you could have your dispute. If the dispute is less than $500,000 Hong Kong, roughly about 70,000 US, then you just pay less than $30 US for the whole dispute to be handled by EBRAM on electronic, on online way. So it's very reasonable. But if it is not a COVID-related dispute, we are driven by the market. The market is roughly about 3% on the amount of the dispute, which goes to the arbitration cost. But then, you obviously, if you come to Hong Kong, I think we now allow funders to consider funding certain arbitration cases, which would help clients, financially in pushing through their cases through arbitration tribunal without the need of putting in too much money.
Excellent. I think are we out of time, or we have a little bit more time? We have 3 more minutes now. So final 3 minutes. I'd like to just conclude by thanking our 3 members of the panel. Thomas, Edward, and Paul, a very, very interesting discussion this morning. The other thing I would leave all the audience with is that there are plenty of opportunities, really, in terms of the common law. But again, we are very open, in fact, as a system to use any kind of system of law. And in fact, I think all 3 of us have been involved in arbitrations where there's a mixture of civil law and common law, both in the substantive law side as well as in the common law side. So this is nothing new to us. And in fact, a lot of our awards actually are based on both systems of law. So the advantages in Hong Kong is that it is very international, although it's based on a common law system. But our arbitration law is actually based on the model law of the United Nations Commission of Trade. This is the UNCITRAL model law on international arbitration. So we are very, very international in terms of acceptance of disputes from any jurisdiction. So we look forward, in fact, to your working with us in the future. If there's any questions that you'd like to raise in writing, please put them in writing to Hong Kong Invest. We will try our very best to answer that. We wish you a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We now invite Mr. Stephen Phillips to give us a closing remark. Mr. Phillips, the Director General of Investment Promotion of Invest Hong Kong. Invest Hong Kong, a government department, provides tailor-made solutions for companies with interest to establish business presence in Hong Kong. Mr. Phillips, please.
Well, first of all, thank you all for joining us this evening. And we do about the growing Sino-Latin American ties, which are set to grow. Hong Kong has a particular role to play in terms of seizing those commercial opportunities. Asia, led by China, is going to recover fastest from the COVID pandemic and really will be the engine of global economic growth going forward. We've heard about the special role that Hong Kong plays in both directions. We've heard a lot about the Greater Bay Area. And as Tony mentioned, we have a dedicated team within the Hong Kong SAR government working with our counterparts in the other 10 cities. But I'd also mention that we've got a new section of our website that will go live very soon on the Greater Bay Area, bringing it to life for all of you. We've heard a lot about how Hong Kong has got world-class legal and professional services and the very important role that Hong Kong can play for dispute resolution. The first panel covered off those many opportunities in Hong Kong itself, Greater Bay Area, the whole of China, ASEAN, and that biggest opportunity of all, Belt and Road, which obviously extends to Latin America as well. Innovation is very important. It's a cornerstone, actually, of the development of the Greater Bay Area. And there's lots of really exciting tech developments going on. We've heard about some of the fundamental advantages of Hong Kong. Obviously, the common law system, our competitive tax, as well as our geographic location. In the second panel, we've heard a good deal about the very, very clear advantages of using Hong Kong for structuring your legal agreements to mitigate risk, but particularly on the dispute resolution side, to leverage this particularly unique position that Hong Kong has got in terms of engaging with the rest of the country, China, the interim relief measures and the ability to get enforcement of judgments in Hong Kong on the mainland, something that only Hong Kong has got. So what I would like to say is we've covered an awful lot of ground, a lot of waterfront, but obviously for each of your businesses, you want to drill deeper and deeper into your particular sector. And the teams at Invest Hong Kong can help you do just that. So we'd love to have a conversation with you at any point in time to help you figure out what Hong Kong can mean for you. And to give you a bit more of a feel as to how we do that, I'd now like to introduce our colleagues in Latin America. So Veronica in Chile, Victor in Mexico, and then Tiago in Brazil. And they'll just share with you a little bit about how practically day to day they can help you seize the opportunities right here in Hong Kong. So thank you very much indeed.
Bueno, buenas noches para nosotros que estamos en Sudamérica. Yo soy Verónica Medina. Yo soy la consultora principal de Invest Hong Kong basada en Santiago de Chile. Nosotros también contamos con una oficina en Lima, en Perú, y desde estos dos países nosotros cubrimos todos los países sudamericanos que son hispanoparlantes. Obviamente ahí excluimos a Brasil, y mi colega Tiago en un ratito les va a comentar, digamos, sobre su trabajo en Brasil. Yo solamente quiero tocar un par de temas. Como dijo Steven, realmente hemos cubrido muchos temas hoy día, esta noche, obviamente temas muy importantes, pero sí cubrimos varias cosas desde las oportunidades hasta los temas legales, qué es lo que representa Hong Kong en la región. Pero el mensaje que yo les quiero decir es si ustedes quieren crecer, digamos, sus mercados en Asia, digamos, desde OASA hacia Asia, realmente lo deben hacer a través de Hong Kong. Hong Kong brinda muchas oportunidades, no solamente legales, no solamente con respecto a oportunidades de negocio, pero también con respecto al sistema de impuestos en Hong Kong. Nuestros servicios es apoyándolo a ustedes, a nuestras empresas sudamericanas, hacer a entregarles información del mercado en Hong Kong, darles información sobre las contrapartes con quien ustedes deberían estar trabajando en este mercado, conectarlos con esas contrapartes, brindarle información sobre oportunidades, ayudarlos con visas de trabajo, y también para empresas que ya están instaladas en Hong Kong, nosotros podemos apoyarlos, seguir en el crecimiento de sus negocios en Asia. Lo más importante que todo es que todos estos servicios que nosotros entregamos son gratuitos. Invest Hong Kong es un ente gubernamental y por ende los servicios que yo, Víctor en México, Tiago en Brasil, les brindamos son gratuitos. Entonces, por favor, el mensaje es comuníquense con nosotros, estamos aquí en la región, estamos en Sudamérica y estamos acá para apoyarlos. Y ahora le voy a dar la palabra a mi colega Víctor Aguilar, que está a cargo del mercado mexicano. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Verónica. Pues vamos a cerrar casi el evento. Muchas gracias por participar el día de hoy en este importante foro. Y bueno, no quiero repetir lo que ya dijo Verónica en cuanto a los servicios que ofrece Hong Kong. Lo importante son gratis. Nosotros estamos ubicados en la Ciudad de México y cubrimos el mercado mexicano y centroamericano desde la Ciudad de México. Y pues estamos para apoyarles. Quería mencionar tres cosas importantes. Una es que México tiene un tratado de doble no tributación con Hong Kong, lo cual hace más atractivo todavía el poder operar en Hong Kong. En segundo lugar, el pasado mes de marzo ya aprobó el Senado de México un APRI, que es un tratado de inversión, lo cual protege más todavía el tema de inversiones mexicanas hacia el mercado Hong Kong y también las de Hong Kong hacia México. Claro, este tratado que se acaba de firmar y que ya entra en efecto, va a ayudar mucho más la inversión de Hong Kong hacia México. Y mucha parte de esa inversión es de mainland China. Entonces, pero es un vehículo que nos va a ofrecer algunos vehículos adicionales como mexicanos para poder invertir en Hong Kong. Y por último ya se acaba también el Senado de aprobar al nuevo cónsul general de México en Hong Kong, el embajador Pablo Macedo, que antes estaba en Israel. Y con esto creo que también vamos a avanzar mucho, porque ya llevamos algún tiempo sin un cónsul, y además de que, al parecer, también vamos a tener un nuevo embajador en China, que es el pasado subsecretario para América del Norte de la Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores. Entonces, creo que vamos a tener un muy buen equipo en China y en Hong Kong para poder desarrollar mejores relaciones con México. Estoy a sus órdenes en la Ciudad de México. Ahorita vuelvo a poner mi mail dentro del el chat, ¿no? Y por ahí vi una pregunta que si era necesario tener una empresa físicamente en Hong Kong para registrar la empresa. No es necesario, pero sí es altamente recomendable, obviamente, ¿no? Y bueno, pues muchas gracias por su atención el día de hoy y quisiera introducir a Tiago, que está en nuestra oficina de Sao Paulo. Tiago, it's your turn in Portuguese.
Obrigado, Vitor. Muito bom falar em português e dizer que a Invest Hong Kong também tem o português como uma das suas línguas aqui no time. Eu sou Tiago Silveira, eu lidero o escritório da Invest Hong Kong aqui no Brasil e, como meus colegas já disseram, a nossa função é apoiar empresas brasileiras que tenham o interesse de entender mais, saber mais sobre como entrar no mercado asiático a partir de Hong Kong. Eu queria fazer um agradecimento especial, já que a gente está chegando ao final do evento, aos nossos parceiros, Lead China, a Câmara Chinesa e a CWCPA, que nos apoiaram nesse evento de hoje e, na verdade, nos apoiam na construção dessa rede, né, de contatos e de expansão de informações e divulgação de informações sobre o que é Hong Kong, o que é a Ásia aqui no Brasil. Queria dizer também que nos últimos anos nós temos trabalhado com empresas de todos os portos daqui do mercado brasileiro, algumas icônicas, como Alpargatas, Havaianas e Bradesco, recentemente abriram e aumentaram seus escritórios na cidade. E de uma maneira geral, todas elas estão olhando para aquilo que já foi dito aqui nesse seminário, né? Hong Kong acaba se destacando como um hub de mão de obra qualificada, de baixo custo tributário e de alta conectividade. Queria ressaltar algo que minha colega Verônica já disse, que são as características centrais dos serviços da Invest Hong Kong, né? Todos eles são gratuitos, confidenciais, obviamente, nós guardamos toda a confidencialidade dos projetos que a gente trata e que a gente apoia, e, por fim, também customizados, né? Cada projeto de investimento é um só, e por isso queria dizer que, nos apoiando, né, nesse processo de internacionalização, temos times setoriais em Hong Kong altamente capacitados, times de experts, para fazer esse trabalho de facilitação de investimentos. Muito obrigado a todos, já estamos aqui estourando o tempo, e os meus contatos estão também à disposição aqui no chat para as empresas brasileiras que quiserem se conectar conosco. Muito obrigado.
Thank you for your participation. Today's webinar video recording will be uploaded soon to Invest Hong Kong's website and will also be sent to all participants. Please reach to Invest Hong Kong for more information. To Tiago, Veronica, and Victor, each one of the representatives will be more than happy to contact you, and have a good evening.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias a todos. Estamos esperando su correo electrónico, por si acaso, desde acá en Santiago.